Hello, welcome to episode 72 of Learn and Become podcast. I can't tell you how this episode is going to go, but one thing I can guarantee it's going to be all about positivity because you have Drew Banks today. Man, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Hey man, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. Really good to be here.
Awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Just give us a background about who you are and how you got where you are today.
So my name is Drew Banks. Obviously, I'm from Prince George's County, Maryland, United States, and I got to where I am now. I would say, it was just, yeah, I would have to say it was God's plan. I was an athlete here. I was living the what everybody wants to do. Go play professional sports. And that didn't happen. So I went on and I played in after college. I went on and I played in Brazil, and I just fell in love with the country. So I played there, I played in Italy, I played in Serbia, and but I always went back to Brazil. So I ended up playing 6 seasons in Brazil,
Wow.
and I didn't expect it, but I picked up the language really fast. My first year there, my first season there, I was only there 4 months. I didn't finish the season. Me and the team had some misunderstandings, so I ended up leaving early. But I could already, depending on who knew me, if you knew me, if you was in my circle, you could communicate with me because my Portuguese was a little different, but I could have a
4 months.
conversation. 4 months,
How did you
4
do
months.
it?
So it was I was there with my brother, and we just decided we was teaching at an English school, and we decided that we were going to learn one word a day. So we literally was speaking English to each other, and if we came to a word that we already learned or our word of the day, we had to say it in Portuguese. So we would be speaking English, and the word of the day could have been need. So we would say preciso, and we would always throw the word of the day or past words that we already learned. We would throw it in our conversation. And something that I did that I think really helped was I would repeat people. I think that's why my accent is the way it is because I mean, no matter where I was, I could be at a restaurant with a group of people and another group of people at another table said one of the words that I was learning and I would repeat it out loud. I would just say it because I
You
wanted to
wouldn't
say it.
care.
I know I that and that's one of the things I talk about online is a lot of Brazilians are embarrassed to say things wrong or even just try to speak English. So I mean that's one thing that I did not have a problem with that at all. I would just say stuff. I think I learned like 20 words and I was like, oh yeah, I'm fluent. Yeah, you can come talk to me. I'm fluent. Whatever you need, I got you. But I had no idea what I was doing. Absolutely no idea.
That's amazing. And seems like that's who you are no matter what, right? Just positive
Right.
person. I know 20 words. I'm fluent. And that's amazing. So just
Right.
to kind of understand it a little bit more. So you played football. You went
Mhm.
through the 4 years of college. Then you came to Brazil, went to Italy, Serbia, and then you stopped playing. What happened in this process?
So I played in Joinville first, and then I went to Italy. And then I was in Italy and I was like, nah, I want to play. No, I got hurt in Italy, and when I came back, the team in Recife had called me, and so I went to Recife. Then after Recife, I played 2 seasons in Recife, and then I went to Serbia. And while I was in Serbia, I talked to a team in Curitiba, and I didn't even go home. Usually, I go home after the season and then go someplace else. I went straight from Serbia to Curitiba. And so I played in Curitiba. I played there for 3 seasons. So I was there like 6 months and then like 8 months. And, so that's how all of that came out. So it was like, it was always back and forth, but I was always making my way back to Brazil somehow.
When was the first time you came to Brazil?
2000 and 2012.
Oh, so it's just like 11 years. It's your first time
Yep.
here. That's amazing. I started learning English in 2012.
Wow. There you go.
We started it at the same time. And just
Yep.
kind of like curious, but I also played sports in college in the United States, but I didn't play football. I
Wow.
played soccer.
Okay. What school did you go to?
That was a very little school in North Carolina
Okay.
called John Wesley University. Played for 2 seasons.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
I'm very
Nice.
into sports. That's why I'm asking you about. And by the way, what's your position in football?
So I played quarterback and I played receiver.
Receiver is the runner.
The guy who they run and then they catch the ball.
Yeah, you seem to be fast.
Yeah,
You like a fast person.
yeah.
Can,
That's
can
how
you? So a lot of Brazilians don't understand a thing about football. Could you explain a little bit about the game? Just kind of like explain what is the game?
I'm gonna try to. Let me see if I can do this as fast as possible. So football is basically, I like to compare football to soccer, because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is you're trying to like move the ball gradually down the field and eventually make a goal. That's what you trying to do. Except in football, we have plays, so jogadas, and you have on each time the offense gets the ball, you have 4 plays to get 10 yards. You have to advance the ball 10 yards, and you only have 4 chances to do it. If you do that, you can do it in 1 play, you can do it in 3 plays, you can do it in 4 plays. If you do that, then you get another 4 chances to get another 10 yards. So that's how we slowly but gradually get the ball down the field. And then there's an area on the field that is 10 yards in distance. So if you're looking at a field, it's 10 yards this way. And if you cross the line with the ball, you get 6 points. So you gradually move the ball down the field, and the goal is to either run across that line or throw the ball to somebody who's already across that line, and you get 6 points.
That's
And the defense's
called
job is to stop it.
touchdown.
Yeah.
Nice. See, now for you guys that know nothing about football, you understand how the game works. That's amazing. I was thinking about when I first saw you on the internet, you were about to complete 10,000 followers on Instagram. You were like 8 to 9,000 followers when I started following you. And I remember when I first saw your video, I was like, man, this guy is so cool. And I saw all the pair of shoes on your. I can't tell you which one was the video because you post a lot of videos, which is good. But in your background, I don't know if it was in the early days, but there were just like lots of pairs of shoes right behind you. And I have a cousin that's he loves shoes. Like he's crazy about shoes. And I instantly sent your profile to him and I was like, man, this guy is so cool. And today you are about to hit 320,000 followers across all the 3 main platforms on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And I'm sure you want to go a lot further, but you've already made a lot of progress in your place for each of the 10 yards. How do you see this process this far? Like, what did you learn about being engaged on social media and just spreading positivity this way?
So I definitely learned that you can't care about it. Like you can't make it a big deal. Like of course everything in social media is the numbers, but I think when you care about the numbers, you end up losing who you are, who you want to be on social media. So at first I really cared about the numbers. I would be like, man, I had back in that time, I would be like, yo, I had 9,899 followers. Now I only have 9,890 followers. Like what happened? Like back in that time, it was because I I felt like I was making content that nobody would want to unfollow me. Like I was like, why would you want to unfollow me? It's nothing but positivity here. It's nothing but good stuff. It's stuff that you can consume. It's stuff that can make you better. Stuff that you can learn from. Why would you want to unfollow me? So I was like, I would really beat myself up about that. But I would say the biggest thing for me was I realized that I can't make everybody happy. I can't make content that everyone is going to like. And there are professional haters in the world. So no matter what, there's going to be somebody who doesn't like your content. So once I realized that and I stopped worrying about all those numbers, I started making content that the people wanted to see. Everything that I try to do, everything that, I do a lot of what do you call them, polls and catches. So I let the followers decide what they want, and I would just make content about, like, with that in mind. So I was like, some people are going to like it, some people aren't, and that's fine. And yeah, I was just posting my content, and I just didn't care. If you didn't like it, then good for you. You feel free to unfollow. If you did like it, then great. And I felt like more people would like it than not like it. So that was just my goal, to just keep going. And at first, I wouldn't talk to the people in the comments. I wouldn't, because there was a lot of, like, in the beginning, there were a lot of people who thought I was Brazilian and trying to say that I wasn't, trying to say that I was American, and I was trying to fool everybody. And I was like, how? Like, I think okay, my Portuguese is good, but I didn't think it was that good that you would not believe that I was Brazilian. I thought that was crazy. So I thought they were just haters. And eventually I started to respond to those people, and that became, content in itself. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's what I would say. You just don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about everybody out there.
that's really interesting. And the cool thing about it is that when we do something trying to please other people, it gets a lot harder for us to do it, to produce the content, whatever it is.
Hmm.
Like for a musician, for an artist, for somebody that works with the internet. But when you don't care that much, you have the opportunity to be authentic.
Right.
Like if you try to be authentic, you can't. Because the fact of trying authenticity already breaks authenticity in itself,
Right.
right? It's
Right.
impossible. Uh, and kind of getting in this point about people thinking you're Brazilian, I would love to hear about a story I heard you saying one time. You just kind of mentioned, but I don't know the full story, so I'd love to hear more about it. You said you were, I think, in a bar in Brazil, and this guy said you were Brazilian and that your English was actually incorrect.
Yeah.
What was it? What happened?
So I believe I was in Curitiba, and I had two friends that we would, they were like my guys. We would always hang out together, and we were out just a random day, and it wasn't a party or nothing like that. We were just at this bar, just hanging out, and it was two things. It was two reasons we were speaking English. One was because both of them could speak English. One needed to speak English more than the other, so sometimes we would just speak English. And the second reason was we would speak English because, they're Brazilians that look like me. They're black Brazilians in the world. So sometimes they would be like, "Yo, no one can tell that you're American unless you're, like, dressed." Sometimes I would the clothes that I would put on, be like, "Yeah, that dude definitely isn't Brazilian." But they decided that they was like, when we speak English, we get more attention, we get more girls. So sometimes we would speak English for that. And yeah, we were there, we found some girls that also spoke English, and we were just having a conversation. And this guy walked up, he was sitting around. I noticed that he was there, and he was like, "Yeah, well, I forgot what I said, but he was like, "Yeah, well, if you want to say that, you should definitely say it like this. You should this is how they say it in the US." And I was like, "Really?"
You're like,
And
which US?
right. And I was kind of like, is this a joke? Like, because I thought the way I spoke English, it was clear that I wasn't Brazilian. I thought it was more clear when I spoke English that I wasn't Brazilian than when I spoke Portuguese. So I was looking around like, one, who is this guy? And two, like, is this a joke? So I started looking at my friends like to see their reaction to see if it was a joke. And everybody was like, yo, bro, he's correcting you. So what are you gonna do? So I was like, oh, well, maybe. So I asked him, I said, have you been to the US? He was like, yeah, I go all the time, this and that. So I was like, well, maybe, where you go, they might say this or, whatever, but where I'm from. So he was like, what do you mean where you're from? I was like, yeah, I'm from the US, bro. I'm not Brazilian. So then it was like a kind of an awkward moment, but eventually he just walked off. He realized that he was a little outside of his lane. He kind of just was like, "Oh, all right, guys, I'll leave." But I was just, I mean, because me, I kind of just stay in my lane. And I was like, "How could you like engage in somebody else's conversation out of nowhere? You weren't invited, and then you're going to correct the person." But like, I couldn't believe it. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I thought it
Do
was
you
hilarious.
remember what was the sentence like? Or
So that's what I don't remember what I said, because somebody said something because they wanted me to correct them. They
okay,
wanted
so
me to correct them. So somebody, I think it was Pablo was his name. I think he said something, and I corrected him more often than not, because he was in the military and he like did a lot of stuff with like the other militaries would come, and because he spoke English, they would have him host them. So
mhm.
he wanted to speak English. So I corrected something that he said, and the guy was like, "No, if you want to say that, you should say it like this." And I was like, "All right, let's
It's
just
it's awesome.
leave it like that." Yeah.
I'm gonna just point out two things about it. First is that I really like Black English. Like I love the way you speak and just the. So I remember this one time we went to the lake when I was in North Carolina. I have a very good friend who lived there. So sometimes when we had some holiday or something, we would go to his house and then we would go do something. So this day we went to the lake and some of his friends showed up with a football ball. And I think it was like a group of 4 or 5 dudes. Uh, and they were like, all of them were black people. And when they were talking among themselves, I got so lost, so confused. I was like,
Yeah.
that's amazing. But I know I'm like, I can't understand 100%. So that's one thing I just want to say that I really like it. And there is a Brazilian guy called Rodrigo. He's a teacher, and he's actually from Belo Horizonte also. That's where I'm from.
Okay.
And he kind of like mastered the American English. I'll send you one of his videos later. It's so
Wait,
cool.
Rodrigo, he lived in Texas, right?
Yeah, I think so. Rodrigo Honorato, something like that.
I don't remember his last name, but I think
He's
I
a
think I
black
know who you're talking about.
dude, really cool. Like the way he speaks, you go like, this guy is amazing.
Yeah.
I've never met
Yeah.
him, but I know he's cool, just like you.
Yeah.
It's just like some people you just know it. Uh, so yeah, that's one point, and maybe that could be one of the things, right? Because certain uh, places or communities or groups, just like where I'm from, we have a very particular Portuguese
Hmm.
with a very like thick country accent that people make fun of us, and I love it. I mean, I really like to say all the Mineiro stuff. Do you think that could be the reason why the guy kind of like didn't get what you're saying?
It could have been. And that's why I said, depending on where he goes in the US, the English could be completely different. You know, literally it could be completely different. Where I'm from, this region around Washington DC is a very specific place. Like our accent is very well known and very specific. So it's some things that we can say that no matter where you are in the US, if somebody says, like we take like the word mother, with the th, and everybody's like, oh, the th sound doesn't have a f sound, and it's true, but we take it a step further and we'll put a v there and just put an a on the end, so we'll say my mother, but
My
that's
mother.
like, yeah, my mother, and that's only here. So it's really specific. So that's why I try, especially when I'm online and I'm speaking English. I only do that. I only speak the way I kind of really speak here when I'm doing those like challenges, those listening challenges. But other than that, I'm speaking in a way that I feel like everyone will. If you speak English, you'll be able to understand me. I try not to use the slang words. I try not to use the my accent as far as like my pronunciation, because I could teach people slang words, but some of the slang words are only from here.
Mhm.
So it's really no point of me teaching it, because you can go else, you can go, you know, one state over and no one has any idea what you're talking about. And the whole idea of me teaching, what I teach is so that you can understand more like just the day-to-day conversation that's happening in the street, because I feel like Brazilians, they don't get that opportunity in the English schools that they have, because they teach, that proper perfect English.
Nobody speaks like
And
that, right?
yeah, and no one speaks like that. Not even in different cultures. No one speaks like proper 100% proper English.
It's awesome. So kind of like on this, talking about that, uh, I totally agree with you. And I was actually just watching one of your recent videos on YouTube where you talk about grammar. You say like, I know nothing about Portuguese grammar,
Right.
because I just learned the way people speak and I know how to communicate really well, but I'm not a grammar master. And particularly, like personally, I agree with you. Feel like grammar is a structure that could potentially maybe help some people to pick up the language faster.
Mhm.
But when it becomes the main focus, you actually don't get the chance to develop your listening, your speaking abilities, because you're too worried about the rules. It's
Mhm.
almost like if you're trying to learn how to drive, you just worry about the rules of driving, but you never like get to drive, get into a
Right.
car and drive. And that's what I try to do with the students when I'm teaching. And I just want to know, like, what's your perspective about it and how important is the correction along the process? Because you said you're correcting your friends, and I'm sure that when you were in Brazil, that happened a lot too, with your
Mhm.
friends helping you out. So those 2 points, like the importance of grammar and actually developing a language with the day-to-day communication, and how important it is to have somebody assisting you in this process.
Um, I think I think I'm gonna try to answer that together. I think to to do something without the grammar, you really need somebody to be there to correct you. Because if you're not going to do grammar, you're not going to have like a base of where to start, or any of that. I think it is important, even if it's another Brazilian who speaks English. You got to have somewhere to start, to try to start to put phrases and sentences together. Now, if you have that, I'm a huge fan of, yo, what do you? And I mean, unless you plan on writing things, what do I need grammar for? I think in that video, I was like, let's if you think about it, when did you learn grammar? You learned grammar in school. Your teacher didn't make do sign language to teach you grammar. They spoke to you in Portuguese. So you were already speaking Portuguese when you learned grammar. So do we really need grammar? Like, yeah, I'm not saying the world should get rid of grammar, but for somebody who just wants to learn another language, go to the country every once in a while or speak to somebody who's from that country, if they're in your country, then what do I actually need grammar for? So, um, I'm not saying that grammar should be demolished or anything, But I'm just depending on what you're learning English for. I don't think grammar should be your main focus because I agree, like you said, it slows you down. And there are some people who are like, oh, you said this is the rule, and they just go by that rule. Like there can be no exceptions to the rule. It is just that. So yeah, not a fan of grammar.
I agree with you. I really like the driving example because, I mean, if you know how to drive, you don't have a driver's license, that's fine. You can still drive. If you need to save somebody's life or if you need to move around, it would be against the law, of course, but still. And but if you know all the rules about driving and you can't drive, if you need to drive, you're in trouble. You won't go anywhere. So
Right.
I agree with you on that, and thank you for making that point. Um, I see that you traveled recently, maybe 2 weeks ago, a week ago. I'm I don't know 2 3 weeks ago. You went to Tokyo. Is it right?
Yes, I went to Tokyo.
Tell me more about it. Was it your first time there? How was it?
That was my first time there, and it was amazing. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I just usually I let like I did that time. I usually, let the followers pick. I give them some options, and I let them pick, and they chose Tokyo. So I was just like, well, let's go to Tokyo. And I had no idea what I was doing. Luckily, I brought my friend along and she like really wanted to go to Japan. So she had things that she wanted to see. And she kind of gave us a schedule of what we were going to do each day or whatever. But yeah, that was, and I didn't realize how big that was until I got back. And there were people who can travel just like I travel, and they were like, "Bro, do you understand? You just went to Japan. Like, you know how far that is. You know how many people never go to Japan. You know how many people from Japan never like come all the way like this far across the world." And I was just like, I thought everybody went to Japan, especially people who work with me because they can go anytime. So that was big, and it was amazing out there. Like it was really safe. The
Really?
culture was different. Like you didn't see a trash can on the street. Like you just didn't. They don't have trash cans on the street. They don't talk. Well, they talk, but they talk very quietly in the street. So there was a part in, I believe, the last video I posted about Japan on YouTube, and I was literally in a crowd of people, and it sounded like I was in a library.
No
That's just
way.
like it's like I was speaking really softly in the video, and you could hear me. It sounded like I was like right against the mic because it was amazing to me. Like they told me about it because there was actually one of my followers. She lives in Japan. She doesn't live in Tokyo, so she like kind of told me about some of the cultural norms and things that I might find different. So I knew that was coming. I just wasn't expecting it to be on that level. I thought there would be some noise, but um like for instance the Shibuya Square, the crossing, the crosswalk, when I got there, like there are literally tons of people. Every time the light changes and the people can walk across the crosswalk, it is tons of people. And you could hear like the video is playing on the buildings. Like you could hear it. Like the people, like if you go to New York, you don't that doesn't happen. You can't hear anything because so many people, so much going on. You can hear everything.
How's that?
I don't.
Think
That's
about
just
Brazil.
their
If you walk into a bakery
yeah,
with two
exactly
people, I mean, it's hard for you to talk to somebody else in
right.
Brazil.
I mean, you at any time in Brazil, you could walk into an establishment. E aí, quanto tempo? And everybody's screaming. So like there, that never happened. Like you never heard anybody scream. You never heard anybody like laugh really loud. It was just it was different. It was very different. And for me, it was hard because I was trying to record like vlogs and stories and stuff in the street. And I tried to like bring like excitement, and I couldn't because right. It was hard, and I felt like, people are already looking at me. And I was like, well, now I'm like talking really loud. Like, I don't know if you can hear my sister just came here. I don't know if you can hear her, but like she's like it's like super loud all the time. So I was like, I don't know how we're gonna be able to do this. So but yeah, but we got through it. We got through it. It was cool. It was cool, and I enjoyed it. I'm definitely going back.
That's amazing. How many countries have you been to?
I have been to, wow, never counted. So here, Brazil, uh Japan, uh Italy, Serbia, Denmark,
You've been to Spain,
Spain,
right?
yeah, Spain recently, Germany, what else? And Austria.
Oh, is it like 9 countries?
Yeah, like eight or nine.
Yeah, nice. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Wow. And I know part of your purpose as a human being is to spread good vibes, positivity, and just to to make the world a better place by spreading out what's good. And how do you feel like traveling and getting to know different cultures and different people help you to be more positive and to do that better?
That is Brazil's fault. That is 100% Brazil's fault because I was your typical. I mean, you lived here for a little while, and I was your typical athlete. Athlete who was really good at what I did. I was your typical American, ignorant. Just thought that it was my this little bubble in the United States, and I was going to go to the play professional football, make millions of dollars, and that was going to be it. And when that didn't happen, and I went to Brazil, I was like, I had issues before, but I have like anger. Like I would get angry really fast, and I would like snap. I would just go off. And I realized one day that I had to change that, but I didn't know how. I realized that I would either be dead or in jail if I didn't change it. So when I went to Brazil, I was the same person. I was upset all the time, and I was just like, and I realized there was this lady who would help us out, and we would go to her house almost every day, and she had this really small apartment, but it was probably like 9 people who lived there, and every day everybody was so freaking happy, and I was like, how is this possible? Like, how are you guys so happy? And so I took a step back, and I was like, I'm gonna start paying attention. And one thing that really caught my eye was, anything could be happening in Brazil. And you guys be like, vamos tomar uma. Let's drink a beer. Like, we figure it out. But let's so I started to realize that I was like, some people in Brazil maybe don't have half of what I have as far as material things and the opportunities that I have, but they are living way more than what I am, well, than what I was. So so then I was just like, I have to adopt that way of life. So I really started to pay attention. I started hanging out with Brazilians here. One of my best friends, the girl I took to Japan, is my best friend, and she's Brazilian. So I started hanging out with Brazilians, and I was just like, once I started to have that I guess it's like I was more optimistic. Brazilians are always like, oh no, we can find a way, we can, it'll be all right. And once I started to implement that into my life, like my life has completely turned around. I could honestly say since I went to Brazil, halfway through that trip, probably like 2 or 3 months into that trip, I started to turn things around. And I could tell you, like, I have not had like, oh, a bad day and that's like carried over into like a bad week. I've had bad moments, but because of that positivity, because of that optimistic way of looking at things, I've I've just turned things around, and I'm a firm believer that positive energy brings positive results now. I just honestly believe that. Like me just being positive, there are more positive people around me. I like my family has, there was pushback when I got back. They were like, my friends were like, "Oh, you're different." My family was like, "Oh, you're different." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I had to do this because it's healthy for me." I wasn't healthy. And now, my mom the other day, she was like, "Yo, where's the positive energy?" And I was like, I was so proud of her because it's starting to wear off on my family. It's starting to wear off on my friends. And I just love it. I love it. And it's become my way of life now. Like I do not associate with people who is just negative, negative, negative energy. And it can be something little, like, oh, I went to McDonald's and they're probably gonna get my order wrong. What type of negative energy is that, bro? Like, like we mean they're probably gonna get it wrong. Like let's hope they get it right. So it's literally become my way of life, and I believe that if you put out positive energy, positive energy comes back to you. So, and I credit that to Brazil. I actually tell people, Brazil probably saved my life because if I hadn't went down there and I hadn't, had that moment, I don't know where I would be today.
Wow, that's deep. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think people realize how life changing can be the opportunity to go elsewhere and see um, different ways of life. Like I was surely transformed in many ways by the American culture
Hmm.
in a positive way. I have great friends today that are Americans. I actually have two friends that I met in the United States. They're not Americans. Met them there. One is from England, the other one is from Jamaica. And just like hearing you speak about the shift that happened just because you were placed in a different environment with different people, you could see things with fresh eyes. Kind of reminds me of a sentence I think I heard it just this week. Like, if you want to change your outcomes, the best way to do it is by changing your environment.
Hmm.
And just seeing, I mean, you have just said it like almost 320 followers across all the social platforms. What advice would you give to people that don't take advantage of the fact that you can shape your environment literally the palm of your hands and just follow negativity all around? Like, how do you think it affects their lives negative? And it's kind of like the reason why you do what you do, right? But
Hmm.
what do you think are the downsides of the opposite of it? If that question makes sense. I mean, that was like all
Well,
over
let's
the place.
let's let's see. So, what are the downsides of people like just following, like negativity and putting all that negativity
Yeah.
in you? I would say, um, I I would say like my parents used to tell me when we were little, we used to play music when we went to sleep, and rap music and all of that, and curse words and all of that, and they would say, music is something that it penetrates your soul, whether you know it or not. It's you can be asleep, but it's getting in there, you know. So I feel the same way about the positive and negative energy. If you have all of that negative energy, you're just, especially with the internet, you can, like we call it, the rabbit hole. You can go down, it's like just a hole, and you can realize, yo, I just spent an hour and a half looking at scrolling through videos. So if you imagine, if you're putting all of this negativity on your timeline and you're putting all that negative energy inside, unconsciously, I feel like you're going to be a little bit more negative. You're going to be, you're going to be quick to judge somebody who does something different than you. You're going to be quick to talk bad about somebody who, just had a breakup or whatever. So I just feel like, don't I try not to do it. What I've started doing now, actually, I'm gonna record a video today. I take the fofoca, because everybody likes all of the gossip and everything. and I kind of put a funny or positive twist on it. I state my opinion about it, which my opinion isn't always, oh, that's great or whatever, all positivity, but I try to put something positive on the end of it. But just to get in that, the trends of the Fofaka or whatever, the internet, that's kind of how it works. But I can't just talk bad about people. Like, I can't do it. And that's one of the reasons why I don't ever speak about politics. Whether it's here or it's in Brazil, it's a mess. And I don't want to talk about it. And it brings negativity. So I would say, like, if you pay attention, if you took a week and paid attention to every negative thing that came out of your mouth or that was said to you, and you pay attention to it, you'll realize it's a lot. It's a lot. And if you can try to filter those things out, I feel like you'll start to see a change.
And hopefully have a better life. Right?
Exactly. Exactly.
That's awesome. Brazil and the US, in your perspective, what the main differences and what you like the most about each country? Or if you want to say like what you don't like in what you like, it's cool, or just like what you like. So we don't go into the negativity.
Well, it's not that negative, but I could say what I don't like about Brazil, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's negativity. It's actually kind of funny. I do not like, because I think you saw that when you were here. We are more like work driven. So it's, no, you got to be there. You got to be there on time. You got to be there early to be on time. They say to us, 5 minutes early is on time. On time is late. If you're on time, you're late. So for me, I struggled a lot with people being late in Brazil, man. It was so hard for me to, people was, hey, we're gonna come pick you up for practice at 6 o'clock. And I'm outside at 6 o'clock. I'm outside at 5:55 waiting. And they're like, oh, I'm at 6:10. I'm like, yo, where you at? Oh, I'm walking out the house now. Well, bro, when was you gonna tell me that? When it was accepted. Everybody was like, oh yeah, you got at least 15 minutes. You could be late. It's fine. 15 minutes. You don't even have to tell anybody you're gonna be 15 minutes late. So that was something that I really struggled with that a lot. Like, I would have fit. I mean, that was back when I was still working on a positivity thing. So I would be really upset when people was late and just blatantly late, just on purpose. So and but what I just love about Brazil is just that vibe you get when you're there. Like, I feel like when I'm in Brazil, especially like in the city, I feel like I'm a pagodeiro. So I feel like, especially like if you're in Rio or some places in the Northeast, yeah, I feel like there's like a soundtrack to the country. You just walk outside and it's that old guy on the corner, drinking beer at 10 o'clock in the morning, and he's yelling at somebody across the street, and somebody's playing music. And I just love it, man. Like, to some people that's like, oh, it's a lot. It's a lot of information, like downtown Rio or whatever. And for me, I'm at peace. Like, I'll just walk downstairs and I'll just look around and take it all in. It's somebody yelling at somebody on the bike, it's somebody, whatever. I just love it. Love it.
That's something you never see in the US. I mean, not as much. I mean,
Nah,
I don't know. You tell me that. Would you see that kind of thing in the US?
nah. I
Because
mean, you can go to
I
New
couldn't
York,
see it where I was. So I don't want to make
right?
assumptions about the country.
Yeah, you can go to like big cities, but it's nothing like the music playing, and you can't drink on the street anyway, so you'll never have the old guy. Like, the old guy is important. You need the old guy on the street, with the drinking and just talking. Um but yeah, nah, you just don't get that in the US. That's partly why I go to Brazil so often, just to get that, you know, mate saudades.
That's awesome. Do you plan to live in Brazil at some point of your life? I mean, maybe.
Nah, I couldn't do the whole taxes thing in Brazil. So I want, if now I take that back. If YouTube and Instagram and all of that did really well, um, and I was making US dollars, I could live in Brazil. You know, I could have a house there, you know, and be there. But I also the job with that I had with American Airlines, which allows me to travel, you know, whenever I want. I would probably never leave that job, even if that's just. I mean, that's kind of how I was raised. You know, I'm not a penny pincher or a Monji Vaca, but I'm like, you could give me $1 million right now, and I will continue to work at that airport, and I will continue to fly around this world for free because I don't want to spend money on something that I don't have to spend money on. Even though I have it to spend, I don't want to spend it. So that's just how I am. So I could probably, I definitely want to get a place in Brazil, and so I could go there and be there whenever I want to. But live in Brazil, and yeah, no, I don't think I could do that.
It's awesome. Yeah, and you probably like what you do too, right?
I
Me.
love it.
So, what's the point of stopping doing something you like and traveling
Exactly.
for free? So,
Right. Right.
it wouldn't make sense.
Right.
So, just some questions for us to wrap up. I'll just say like something and you tell me if Brazil or the US,
Okay.
what you
Okay.
prefer.
Okay.
So starting with food.
Ah, I gotta say U.S. I gotta say U.S. just because I was brought up here. So there are things that I've liked since I was like a small child. Brazil has only been in my life for what 10, 11 years. So yes, the Brazilian food is amazing. I never like it is probably some of the best in the world. But let's do it like this: steak, Brazil, picanha. You can't match it anywhere. I buy it here. That's what I cook here at home, picanha. But food in general, there are things I just gotta have it here.
Yeah, there's an emotional attachment, right?
Yeah, it is an emotional attachment.
What's your favorite Brazilian food?
So it's more so a plate. I like rice, beans, uh, picanha, and I like those little. I think they're called banana milanesa with the cinnamon on it. When they fry the banana and they put the cinnamon on it, it's like it's
Never had
amazing.
it.
Oh my
I don't
goodness!
think I'm
You need to
Brazilian.
go. You need to go to a churrascaria right now, and you need to ask.
Oh, is
It's
it
so
like
good.
a dessert?
I put it on my plate.
Oh,
Like it's
okay.
not. Yeah, I put it on my plate
Is it
early.
sweet?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a banana, and then it probably has a little sugar and cinnamon on it.
I think what you're talking about is probably banana with condensed milk and cinnamon, maybe.
So maybe I feel like I don't. I only say that it's not because it's. I don't. Like I don't do like caramel. I rarely do like the condensed milk.
Mhm.
Because it really just looks like they took the banana, they fried it, and they put some cinnamon on it.
Oh, I
Uh,
gotta try it.
yeah, you gotta try it. Gotta try it.
Music.
Uh, I'm gonna say I'm gonna say Brazil because the music that I used to listen to here, I still listen to it every once in a while, like the rap and all of that. And now the rap nowadays, I think is trash. But um, the pagode and the samba that really helped me in that transition to be positive because that music is so positive. You know, I listen to that a lot now because sometimes I'm just driving or I just need those vibes, you know. So I would say Brazil.
It's the kind of music that even if the lyrics aren't happy, still you get good vibes from it, right?
Yeah. Like my mom, I'll come in the house, my mom will be cleaning up the house listening to pagode or samba.
For
And she
real.
has no idea what she's listening to.
Wow, that's so cool. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, third one, but not women.
Brazil.
Wow. That one you didn't
No
have a
question.
second thought.
No. Brazil.
Why?
Brazil. It's more I'm I'm very random. I'm very like I don't like, everything to be like, oh, perfect. I like the emotion. And Brazilians are full of emotion. It's even hard sometimes because you just like, what are you thinking about? Like what? So I would definitely say Brazil.
That's really cool. Man, do you want to add up anything into the conversation? Is there anything you would like to talk about, to bring about, to share in general?
Now I feel like if I say something, I might mess it up. I feel like this episode was awesome, man. I feel like it was great. I've done a couple of these, and this one by far was, I would say, the best one yet. So I don't want to mess it up. I'm good.